In a small, quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, lived a woman named Amina. She was a maid, a hard-working and honest soul who had spent most of her life serving others. Amina was not born into wealth or comfort. Her childhood had been filled with struggles, the kind that leave deep marks on a person's heart. She grew up in a small, run-down home with her parents and younger siblings. Every day had been a challenge, and every meal was a blessing she never took for granted. Despite the hardships, Amina had learned the value of hard work and responsibility at a very young age. She had watched her mother scrub floors, wash clothes, and cook meals tirelessly to keep the family afloat. Her father, though kind-hearted, had little work and often struggled to find jobs that paid enough to cover even the simplest necessities. From her parents, Amina had learned two important things: kindness and courage. She knew that life could be unfair, but she also understood that a good heart and determination could carry a person through even the darkest times. By the time Amina was in her late 20s, she had become a well-respected maid in her neighborhood. People admired her dedication, her honesty, and her willingness to go the extra mile for anyone who needed help. She had worked for many families over the years, always maintaining a reputation of reliability and trustworthiness. It was this reputation that eventually led her to work for one of the richest families in the city, a billionaire named Mr. Khalid. Mr. Khalid was a man who seemed to live in a different world from the one Amina knew. His mansion was enormous, with tall gates, manicured gardens, and a driveway lined with expensive cars. Inside, the rooms were decorated with priceless art, polished furniture, and sparkling chandeliers. Every detail reflected immense wealth and refinement. Yet, despite all this grandeur, there was a noticeable distance between Mr. Khalid and the world around him. He was a man of power, deeply involved in business, and often absorbed in his work, leaving little time for anyone, even his family. Amina began her job with the usual mix of nervousness and excitement. She had never worked in a place so luxurious, and at first, she felt overwhelmed by the sheer scale of everything around her. The corridors seemed endless, the rooms seemed endless, and the responsibilities seemed endless. But Amina was nothing if not resilient. She approached each task with care and attention, learning the routines of the household quickly. She cleaned, organized, cooked, and even helped manage the schedules of the staff. She became an indispensable part of the household, earning the quiet respect of her colleagues. Despite the distance Mr. Khalid kept from most people, Amina noticed a different side of him when it came to his young son, Adam. Adam was just 7 years old, with bright eyes and an innocent smile that could light up even the coldest room. The boy was full of energy and curiosity, constantly asking questions about the world and seeking attention from everyone around him. Amina found herself drawn to him, not only because he was a child in need of care, but also because he reminded her of her own siblings, who she had supported as they grew up. It was during one of her early weeks in the household that Amina first noticed something was wrong. Adam seemed unusually tired, his bright energy fading, and he often complained of pain or discomfort. At first, it was easy to dismiss it as a passing illness, something temporary. But as days went by, it became clear that this was more serious. The boy would sometimes stay in bed for hours, barely eating, barely speaking. Amina's heart ached every time she saw him suffer. She tried to comfort him, preparing his favorite meals and reading stories to distract him from the pain. But she could see that this was beyond what her care could solve. The household, while grand and filled with luxury, had an undercurrent of tension. Doctors had been called, and medical tests were ongoing. Amina overheard snippets of conversation from Mr. Khalid and his advisors, words like rare illness, critical condition, and experimental treatment. She could sense the worry in their voices, even though Mr. Khalid tried to remain composed. The boy's life was hanging in the balance, and the situation was dire. Amina found herself at a crossroads. She was a maid, a lowly servant in the eyes of society, with no wealth and no power. Yet, she felt a profound sense of responsibility toward Adam. She had seen the boy laugh and cry, play and dream, and the thought of losing him filled her with dread. How could she, a simple maid, help a child whose life seemed to depend on things beyond her control? The question haunted her day and night. As the days passed, Amina became more observant, paying attention to every detail in the house, every routine of the staff, and every moment when Mr. Khalid's financial resources were discussed. She knew that the experimental treatment Adam needed was extraordinarily expensive, likely running into millions of dollars. She also knew that Mr. Khalid, despite his immense wealth, might be reluctant to spend such an enormous sum, given his practical and cautious nature. Amina's thoughts were a whirlwind. Could she find a way to save Adam without betraying the trust of the household? Could she do something drastic if it meant saving a life? The moral dilemma tore at her conscience. She had always been honest and lawful, believing in fairness and integrity. But seeing a young boy suffer, a boy who had done nothing wrong and whose only crime was being vulnerable, made her question everything she had been taught. At night, when the house was silent and the lights dimmed, Amina would sit in the small room she had been provided, thinking about her next steps. She recalled her own childhood, the moments when her family had faced illness or lack of food, and how she had wished for someone to intervene, someone with the power to make a difference. She realized that sometimes, in life, one had to make difficult choices, ones that might seem wrong on the surface but were justified by the heart's intentions. Amina began to plan. She carefully observed the household accounts, the flow of money, and the times when she could move without being noticed. She had no intention of causing harm or taking more than necessary. Her goal was simple yet profound: to save Adam, the boy who had no voice in his own survival. The more she thought about it, the more determined she became. She knew the risks discovery could mean losing her job, facing legal consequences, and being judged by society. But the thought of Adam's suffering was a far greater risk to her soul. Even as Amina planned in her mind, she did not lose sight of her daily duties. She continued to serve the household diligently, cooking meals, cleaning rooms, and attending to Adam whenever he needed comfort. She spoke to him gently, telling him stories and sharing small moments of joy, trying to keep his spirits up despite his illness. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day. Adam began to trust her implicitly, sensing her kindness and understanding. For Amina, every smile she could coax from him was worth more than any amount of money or reward. Meanwhile, Mr. Khalid remained absorbed in his work, dealing with business deals and financial decisions. He noticed his son's condition but often delegated the responsibility to doctors and advisors. He cared deeply for Adam, of course, but his approach was pragmatic, seeking solutions within the confines of his schedule and responsibilities. He trusted his staff to manage the household and assumed that things were under control. Little did he know that Amina's growing worry and compassion were about to change everything. Amina's preparation was meticulous. She reviewed everything she knew about the household finances, learning the routines of security, the flow of digital transactions, and the times when attention was least focused. She also mentally rehearsed the possible consequences, imagining every scenario from success to failure. Each thought strengthened her resolve. Her mission was clear: Adam's life was more important than fear, more important than rules, more important than her own safety. Even in these dark and challenging times, Amina never lost her humanity. She helped other staff members, shared small acts of kindness, and remained humble and respectful despite the pressure building inside her. Her ability to balance compassion with careful planning revealed a depth of character that went far beyond her position as a maid. She was, in many ways, the moral heart of the household, quietly observing, caring, and preparing to act when the moment arrived. As Part 1 closes, the story leaves readers at the edge of suspense. Amina stands at the threshold of a life-changing decision. The boy she has come to love is gravely ill, and time is slipping away. She knows that what she is about to do could define her life forever, but she is guided by courage, compassion, and the unshakable belief that saving a life is the highest calling of all. The tension is palpable, the stakes are immense, and the heart of the story begins to beat strongly, preparing for the extraordinary events that are about to unfold. The days passed slowly, each one heavier than the last for Amina. Adam's condition had not improved, and the worry in her heart grew like a storm she could not control. She spent her mornings preparing meals and cleaning the mansion as usual, her hands moving automatically while her mind raced with worry. Each glance at Adam's pale face sent shivers through her, and she could not help but imagine the life that might slip away if nothing was done. Amina knew she had reached a turning point. She had seen families lose children to illness, and she had always prayed that she would never face such pain. Yet now, she was at the center of one of life's most cruel tests. She understood that the treatment Adam needed was almost impossible to obtain without a vast sum of money. The cost was more than she had ever seen or imagined, even in her years of service in wealthy households. But she could not stand by and do nothing. Every day that passed without action felt like a betrayal of everything she believed in. The decision was not easy. Amina had always been honest, taught from childhood that stealing or breaking the law was wrong. But the more she considered Adam's life, the more she realized that morality was sometimes more complicated than right and wrong. Saving a life, she reasoned, was worth bending the rules, especially if it meant giving a child a chance to grow, laugh, and dream. She could not ignore the urgency. The boy's life depended on quick action, and hesitation could mean tragedy. Amina began her careful observation. She studied the routines of the household, noting when Mr. Khalid left for work, when the other staff were busy, and how money flowed through the mansion. She was precise and meticulous, ensuring she understood every detail before taking any action. Her mind worked like a clock, calculating every possibility, imagining every scenario, and preparing for the worst. She knew that discovery could ruin her life, yet her love for Adam outweighed her fear. During this time, she found herself reflecting on her own life. She thought about her family, the struggles they had endured, and the small sacrifices they had made for each other. She realized that life was fragile and unpredictable. Wealth and power could not shield anyone from suffering, and she began to see the world differently. For Amina, this was no longer just a job, it was a mission, a calling that required courage, intelligence, and above all, a willingness to act when others could not. Late at night, when the mansion was silent and the moon cast soft shadows through the grand windows, Amina made her plan. She would take only what was necessary, nothing more, and she would ensure that Adam received the treatment immediately. She would not flaunt the money or use it for personal gain. Her entire focus was on the boy, on giving him a chance to live and experience the joys of childhood. The thought of him recovering filled her with determination, giving her strength she did not know she possessed. When the moment came, Amina moved with care and precision. She accessed the accounts in a way she had observed the staff doing, careful to leave no trace of her actions. Every heartbeat was loud in her chest, every second stretched like a lifetime. Her hands shook, not from fear of punishment, but from the weight of responsibility she felt. She was not just handling money, she was handling the future of a young life, and that burden was immense. After the money was secured, she did not celebrate. Instead, she focused on the next step, delivering it safely to the doctors who could provide the treatment. She coordinated secretly, ensuring that every transaction was discreet, and that no one in the household would notice until it was too late to intervene. Her mind was alert and active, thinking several steps ahead, planning for contingencies, and ensuring that nothing could go wrong. She felt the tension of each passing moment, but also a quiet sense of purpose. For the first time, she realized the true extent of her own courage. While carrying out her plan, Amina faced moments of fear. She imagined the consequences if she were caught: the angry looks of Mr. Khalid, the disappointment of the household staff, and the judgment of society. She imagined being arrested, standing in front of a judge, and explaining why she had done what she did. The fear was real and pressing, yet she could not let it stop her. The stakes were too high, and Adam's life was worth every risk. In these intense moments, Amina also discovered something remarkable about herself. She realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act in spite of it. Every step she took was a testament to her determination and her love for the boy. She understood that true bravery often comes from ordinary people, those who are willing to put the needs of others above their own safety. She felt proud, not in a boastful way, but in a quiet, deep sense of fulfillment. She was doing what few others could. Meanwhile, Adam remained unaware of the extraordinary measures being taken on his behalf. He struggled through each day, feeling weak and frightened, but finding comfort in the gentle presence of Amina. She continued her duties as if nothing had changed, reading to him, preparing his favorite foods, and comforting him through sleepless nights. Her actions were quiet and humble, yet filled with profound love. For Adam, she was a guardian angel, a constant source of warmth and reassurance in a world that suddenly seemed frightening. The pressure was not limited to Amina alone. Even as she carried out her plan, she observed Mr. Khalid, noticing the worry etched into his face when he checked on Adam. Despite his wealth and resources, he seemed powerless against the illness that threatened his son. Amina realized that sometimes, even the richest and most powerful people could be vulnerable, and that strength was not always measured in money or influence. Compassion, courage, and quick thinking were equally important, and she had all three in abundance. Finally, after days of careful preparation and meticulous action, Amina succeeded. The money reached the medical professionals who could provide the treatment Adam desperately needed. The boy was admitted, and the procedures began. Amina stayed nearby, quietly checking in, offering comfort, and praying silently that everything would go well. She had no way of knowing the outcome, but she had done everything within her power to give Adam a chance. During this time, Amina also faced an internal struggle. She had broken a fundamental rule of her life, she had taken something that was not hers. Even though she knew her actions were justified, she wrestled with guilt and fear. She reflected on her upbringing, her values, and the lessons her parents had taught her. Yet, each thought of Adam's fragile life reminded her that morality was sometimes more complex than simple rules. The greater good, she realized, sometimes required extraordinary actions. Through it all, Amina remained humble. She did not seek recognition or reward. Her satisfaction came from knowing that she had done everything possible to save a life, and that her courage might make a real difference in the world. She had risked her safety, her reputation, and her future, but she did so willingly, with a heart full of love and a mind focused on the task at hand. As part 2 comes to a close, the tension in the story reaches its peak. Amina has taken the money and set in motion a series of events that could either save a life or bring her world crashing down. The boy's treatment has begun, but the consequences of her actions have yet to be revealed. Every character in the household remains unaware of the full story, and the reader is left on the edge of suspense, eager to discover what will happen next. The stage is set for the dramatic and emotional events that will follow, highlighting themes of courage, compassion, and the complex moral choices that define human character. Amina's journey in Part 2 is one of bravery, intelligence, and love. She has shown that ordinary people, even those in humble positions, can perform extraordinary acts when guided by heart and conscience. Her story inspires not only because of the danger she faced, but because of the selflessness and humanity she displayed in the face of impossible odds. The hospital was quiet but full of energy, the kind that comes from hope mixed with tension. Amina had never been inside such a place before, and everything seemed overwhelming. Machines beeped softly, nurses moved quickly but calmly, and the smell of antiseptic lingered in the air. Every detail made her feel nervous, but she reminded herself that she had done everything to give Adam a chance. She focused on him, on the small boy lying weakly in the hospital bed, and all her fear faded into determination. Adam looked different from the lively child she remembered. His face was pale, his eyes tired, and his little hands were frail. But even in his weakened state, there was a spark in his eyes when he saw Amina. She smiled gently at him, and he tried to return the smile. "Don't worry, Adam," she whispered softly, "We are going to make you better. Everything will be fine." He clutched her hand weakly, and she held it tightly, giving him all the warmth and courage she could. The doctors moved efficiently, explaining the treatment in simple words to Amina. She listened carefully, nodding at every instruction, even though the words were complicated. She wanted to understand everything so she could help Adam through the process. The procedures would take time, patience, and care, but she was ready to stay by his side no matter how long it took. Amina realized that sometimes, courage meant being present, being strong in small, quiet ways, and supporting someone even when you had no power to fix everything immediately. As the treatment began, Adam experienced discomfort. His body ached, and the machines and needles frightened him. He whimpered softly, tears forming in his eyes, and Amina held his hand tighter. She whispered stories to distract him, talked about his favorite games, and reminded him of the fun things they would do together once he got better. She could feel his small body trembling, and her heart ached, but she knew she had to be calm and strong for him. Her presence alone became a source of comfort, a steady anchor in the storm of fear and pain. During these hours, Amina watched the doctors work tirelessly. They moved with precision, checking every machine, adjusting every dosage, and monitoring Adam's condition constantly. She admired their skill, but she also realized how precious time was, and how every second mattered in saving a life. She felt a sense of urgency, not panic, as she silently prayed that Adam's body would respond to the treatment. Every beep of the machine, every movement of the nurse, and every glance from the doctor carried significance, and she paid attention to all of it. While the treatment continued, Amina reflected on the journey that had brought them here. She thought about the day she had first noticed Adam's illness, the long nights of worry, and the moment she had decided to take the money to save him. Every choice had been difficult, every step risky, but each one had been driven by love and the desire to protect a life. She understood that courage was not just about brave acts in front of others, it was also about making difficult decisions in silence, carrying the weight of responsibility quietly and faithfully. As the hours turned into days, Adam slowly began to show signs of improvement. His color returned, his eyes became brighter, and the small strength in his body started to return. The doctors were cautiously optimistic, explaining that the treatment was working, but that Adam still needed careful monitoring and care. Amina felt a wave of relief, but she remained vigilant, understanding that recovery was not instant and that patience was just as important as action. She stayed close, always ready to comfort him, to encourage him, and to be the steady presence he needed. The bond between Amina and Adam grew stronger each day. He began to talk more, asking her questions about the outside world, about her life, and about the games they would play when he recovered. Amina listened patiently, telling him stories, sharing lessons about life, and reminding him of the courage he had shown just by fighting through his illness. She realized that healing was not just physical, it was emotional, and that her role in supporting him was as important as the medicine and treatment he received. At the same time, Amina could not ignore the worry that lingered in her mind. She had taken the money without permission, and although her actions were meant to save a life, she knew there could be consequences. She wondered what would happen when Mr. Khalid discovered what she had done. Would he be angry, or would he understand her motives? The uncertainty was a constant presence, but she refused to let it distract her from Adam's needs. Every moment of focus mattered, and she reminded herself that the boy's recovery was the priority above all else. The hospital days were filled with small victories and tiny setbacks. Adam's appetite returned slowly, his energy grew gradually, and he began to walk short distances with support. Each small improvement brought smiles and relief, and Amina celebrated quietly with him. She encouraged him gently, never rushing, never pushing too hard, and always reminding him of the progress he had made. The patience she showed became a lesson for both of them, showing that healing required time, care, and consistent support. During this period, Amina also observed the dedication of the hospital staff. She saw doctors working late into the night, nurses checking vital signs tirelessly, and everyone collaborating to ensure the best outcome for Adam. It was a world she had never fully appreciated before, a place where skill, compassion, and diligence came together to save lives. She realized that courage and love existed not only in her small acts but also in the quiet dedication of professionals committed to helping others. This understanding deepened her respect for humanity and gave her hope that good deeds could create real change in the world. As Adam's condition stabilized further, he began to smile more often. He talked about going back home, about seeing his friends, and about playing outside again. Amina shared his excitement, feeling a growing sense of joy and relief. She realized that the boy's recovery was not just about medicine, it was about hope, encouragement, and the love that surrounded him. Every encouraging word, every gentle touch, and every story she told played a role in helping him regain strength and confidence. Despite the progress, Amina never let her guard down. She continued to monitor Adam, making sure he followed the doctor's instructions and reminding him to rest when he needed to. She coordinated with the nurses, learning about medications, dietary needs, and the subtle signs of improvement or concern. Her attentiveness became a vital part of his recovery, and she felt a quiet pride in her ability to care for him effectively. She understood that true courage was also about consistency, responsibility, and unwavering dedication. Throughout this period, Amina's love for Adam became even more apparent. It was a love that went beyond duty or obligation, it was a deep, selfless care that fueled every action she took. She learned to anticipate his needs, to understand his fears, and to celebrate his victories. She became his safe place, his source of comfort, and his advocate in a world that had seemed frightening and uncertain. Her presence transformed the hospital experience from something daunting into something filled with hope and human connection. Finally, after weeks of treatment and careful observation, Adam was strong enough to leave the hospital. The day of discharge was filled with excitement, relief, and gratitude. Amina walked beside him, supporting him as he stepped into the fresh air, feeling the sun on his face and the wind on his cheeks. He looked healthier, happier, and full of energy, and Amina felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. The boy who had been so weak and sick was now smiling, walking confidently, and ready to embrace life once more. As they returned to the mansion, Amina reflected on everything that had happened. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and moral dilemmas, yet she had never wavered in her commitment to saving Adam. Her courage, intelligence, and compassion had made a real difference, showing that ordinary people could achieve extraordinary things when guided by love and conscience. She felt a quiet sense of fulfillment, knowing that her actions had saved a life and given hope to a family. The story of Part 3 shows the emotional highs and lows of Adam's recovery and the depth of Amina's courage. Her dedication, patience, and love created an environment where healing was possible, emphasizing that true heroism often comes from quiet, consistent acts of care. The tension of whether Adam would survive gradually gave way to hope, setting the stage for the next part of the story, where consequences, gratitude, and the reactions of those around Amina will unfold. Amina's journey in Part 3 is a testament to the power of love, bravery, and dedication. It shows that even in the face of fear and uncertainty, one person's courage can change the course of a life. It inspires readers to consider the impact of their own actions, reminding them that heroism is not always grand gestures, it is often found in small, selfless deeds that make a profound difference. When Mr. Khalid returned to his mansion, he felt the weight of the day pressing down on him. He had been busy with meetings, decisions, and responsibilities, but a small unease lingered in his mind. Something felt off, though he could not place exactly what it was. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that always made him alert. He walked through the grand halls, observing everything carefully. The staff greeted him politely, but their expressions seemed unusually tense. Mr. Khalid paused, frowning slightly, sensing that something was not as it should be. He went into his study, a room he always kept locked and private. Inside, he had a secure safe containing money and important documents. He opened it out of habit, expecting everything to be in its usual place. But when he looked inside, he froze. The safe was almost empty. A significant sum of money, one that he had set aside for future investments and family needs, was gone. His heart skipped a beat, and a cold shiver ran down his spine. Questions flooded his mind. Who could have taken the money? Why? And most importantly, how had they gained access to something so secure? The initial reaction was a mix of anger, disbelief, and confusion. Mr. Khalid was known for his strictness and attention to detail, and he had trusted very few people in his household. He could not imagine anyone daring to steal from him. His mind raced as he tried to piece together the possibilities. He thought about the staff, the people closest to him, and even wondered if it could be a professional thief. But nothing made sense. There had been no sign of forced entry, no alarm had gone off, and everything else in the house remained untouched. As he stood there, trying to calm himself, a realization began to form. Only someone who knew the house well and understood its routines could have done this. The possibilities narrowed, and his eyes fell on the staff members who had been around him that day. His expression hardened, and he called for the household manager. A tense meeting followed, with every staff member gathered in the main hall. Mr. Khalid spoke with measured authority, explaining that a large sum of money was missing and that he expected honesty and cooperation. The room was filled with silence, every face betraying a hint of fear or worry. Hours passed as he questioned the staff one by one. Everyone maintained their innocence, their voices steady but their eyes revealing a subtle anxiety. Mr. Khalid listened carefully, observing body language, tone, and hesitation. Yet, despite his experience in handling people, he could not immediately identify the culprit. The mystery weighed heavily on him. He was a man of order, a man used to control, and the thought that someone had broken that trust without leaving evidence disturbed him deeply. Meanwhile, Amina waited quietly in her room, her heart pounding. She knew that sooner or later, Mr. Khalid would discover the missing money. She had been prepared for this possibility, but nothing could fully prepare her for the confrontation. She replayed every step in her mind the moment she had taken the money, the rush of fear, the hospital visits, and Adam's slow recovery. Her actions had saved a life, yet now they might cost her everything. She reminded herself that what she had done was for the boy, and that truth, eventually, might be met with understanding. The moment finally came when Mr. Khalid approached her. His expression was unreadable, calm but serious. He asked her to accompany him to the study. Amina followed silently, trying to steady her breathing. She knew the truth could not be hidden any longer. Her hands trembled slightly, and her mind raced with possible outcomes. She worried about losing her job, facing legal consequences, or even damaging the relationship she had built with Adam. Yet, despite her fear, she held her head high. She had acted with love, and she would face the consequences. Once in the study, Mr. Khalid closed the door behind them and turned to face her. His eyes were steady, his voice calm but firm. "Amina," he said, "the money from the safe is missing. I need you to tell me what happened." Amina swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the moment. She took a deep breath and began to explain everything: the illness of Adam, the urgency of the situation, and the impossible choice she had faced. She spoke honestly, her words flowing with emotion. She told him how she had wanted to save the boy, how she had taken the money out of love and necessity, and how she had never intended harm. Mr. Khalid listened silently, his eyes never leaving hers. There was a long pause after she finished speaking, a silence so heavy it seemed to fill the room. Amina's heart raced, expecting anger, punishment, or even dismissal. She braced herself for the worst, but it did not come. Instead, Mr. Khalid leaned back in his chair, rubbing his forehead thoughtfully. He was quiet for several moments, deep in thought. Then, finally, he spoke. "Amina," he said slowly, "you risked everything to save a life. That is something I cannot ignore." A wave of relief washed over Amina, but she remained cautious. She had seen too many stories where good intentions were punished. She waited, unsure of what he would do next. Mr. Khalid's voice continued, calm but firm. The money was taken without permission, yes. But the life you saved is priceless. You acted selflessly, and your courage and love for Adam have not gone unnoticed. He paused again, letting his words sink in. Amina could hardly believe what she was hearing. Mr. Khalid's reaction was unexpected. He did not scold, punish, or demand repayment immediately. Instead, he asked questions about Adam's health, about the treatment, and about every step Amina had taken. He wanted to understand fully, not just the action but the intention behind it. As she explained, he nodded thoughtfully, his expression softening. It was clear that he was moved by her honesty, dedication, and courage. The stern man known for his strictness showed a side of empathy and understanding that few had witnessed. After listening carefully, Mr. Khalid made a decision. He instructed Amina to continue caring for Adam without fear. He assured her that the money would be replaced and that she would not face punishment. His reasoning was simple but powerful: saving a life outweighed rules, money, or protocol. Amina felt tears in her eyes, not just of relief but of gratitude and admiration. She had risked everything, and the man she had feared might punish her instead recognized the value of her actions. The days that followed were filled with a new sense of respect and understanding between Mr. Khalid and Amina. He checked on Adam personally, expressing concern and appreciation for Amina's dedication. He acknowledged her bravery publicly within the household, praising her commitment and selflessness. This acknowledgement created a positive atmosphere, strengthening trust and respect among the staff and family. Amina, in turn, felt more confident and valued, understanding that her actions, though risky, had made a real difference and were recognized by those who mattered most. Amina's relationship with Mr. Khalid transformed during this time. From fear and caution, it evolved into mutual respect. She realized that true authority included understanding, compassion, and the ability to value the human spirit beyond strict rules. Mr. Khalid, for his part, seemed to rediscover empathy, seeing firsthand how courage, honesty, and selflessness could exist in unexpected places. Their dynamic became a testament to the power of human connection, respect, and understanding. Adam's recovery continued, stronger and steadier each day. He thrived under Amina's care, and the bond between caregiver and child grew even deeper. The house, once tense with worry, now carried an air of hope and gratitude. Mr. Khalid's shock at the missing money had transformed into admiration for Amina's bravery, teaching everyone a lesson about priorities, values, and what truly mattered. The experience highlighted that wealth, rules, and protocol were secondary to life, love, and moral courage. The story of Part 4 demonstrates the emotional tension surrounding the discovery of the money, the confrontation, and the surprising response from Mr. Khalid. It explores themes of morality, courage, empathy, and the recognition of selfless acts. The suspense builds as readers wonder how the billionaire would react, and the resolution brings a sense of justice, humanity, and hope. Amina's courage, honesty, and compassion shine through, inspiring readers to consider the value of intention, selflessness, and moral courage in difficult situations. This part also sets the stage for the final chapter, where Adam's complete recovery, the strengthening of family bonds, and the ultimate recognition of Amina's heroism will be explored. It emphasizes that bravery is not always about grand gestures, it is often about quiet, determined actions that save lives and touch hearts. The story continues to show that when intentions are pure and actions are guided by love, even the strictest authority can recognize and reward true courage. The days following the confrontation had brought a sense of relief and renewed hope to the mansion. Adam was recovering steadily, his strength returning with each passing day. The hospital visits were fewer, and the worried frowns on the faces of those who cared for him slowly gave way to smiles. Amina remained by his side, tending to him with unwavering dedication. Her presence had become a source of comfort not only for Adam but for everyone in the household. She had grown closer to him, forming a bond that went beyond the usual caregiver relationship. It was a bond built on trust, love, and the shared experience of facing life's harsh challenges together. Mr. Khalid watched this bond grow, and he felt a sense of pride and relief he had not expected. The boy he cared so deeply for was thriving, and the woman who had risked everything to save him had proven her courage and loyalty. There was a subtle shift in the household now. Staff members looked at Amina with respect, understanding the depth of her selflessness. Even those who had doubted her initially began to see her in a new light, recognizing her bravery and the strength of her character. The mansion, once filled with tension and worry, now felt warm and hopeful. Adam's recovery was remarkable. He began to smile more often, laugh at small jokes, and even play with toys he had ignored for weeks. His energy returned little by little, and with it, the sense of normalcy in the house. Mr. Khalid found himself spending more time with his son, enjoying simple moments that he had often taken for granted. He watched Adam's laughter echo through the halls, a sound that brought him an unexpected peace. In these moments, he realized that wealth and material success were nothing compared to the joy of seeing his child healthy and happy. Amina continued to care for Adam with tireless devotion. She guided him through exercises, ensured he took his medicine on time, and provided emotional support during moments of discomfort or fear. Her patience was endless, and her love for him seemed to grow stronger each day. She celebrated his smallest achievements with genuine joy, cheering when he managed to walk unassisted or when he finished a simple task that had once seemed impossible. Her dedication was unwavering, and Adam responded to it with trust and affection that melted the hearts of everyone around him. Mr. Khalid, reflecting on everything that had happened, realized that Amina's actions had taught him more than any lesson in business or life could have. Her courage, her willingness to act selflessly for someone else's benefit, and her unwavering honesty had shown him the true meaning of moral strength. He began to see her not just as a member of his staff but as a person of exceptional character, someone whose values went beyond money or status. He understood that true loyalty and bravery often came from the heart, and that people like Amina were rare treasures in life. To show his appreciation, Mr. Khalid made a thoughtful decision. He invited Amina to his private office, where he explained that he wanted to reward her not just with words but with tangible support. He offered her a promotion, better pay, and a permanent place in the household with benefits that ensured her security. Amina was deeply touched by his gesture, but more than that, she felt respected and valued for her true worth. The recognition was not just about the money, it was about acknowledging her courage, honesty, and selflessness. The household, too, noticed the change. Staff members felt inspired by the way Mr. Khalid had responded to Amina's actions. They realized that integrity and courage were valued above all else, and that even in situations of fear or uncertainty, honesty and selflessness could lead to unexpected respect and understanding. This created a positive shift in the atmosphere of the mansion. The staff worked with more dedication, knowing that their actions were seen and appreciated, and that doing the right thing could bring honor and recognition. Adam's father spent more time at home, witnessing every small improvement in his son's health. He joined in playful activities, read stories to him, and even tried to teach him new skills. The house echoed with laughter and happiness once more. Each day brought new milestones, and Adam's progress became a source of hope and joy not only for Mr. Khalid and Amina but for the entire household. The boy's resilience and determination inspired everyone, showing that even the most challenging circumstances could be overcome with patience, care, and love. Amina's role in Adam's life became even more important as time passed. She taught him kindness, patience, and the importance of courage in the face of fear. She encouraged him to express his feelings, to face challenges without hesitation, and to appreciate the people who loved and cared for him. Her guidance extended beyond physical care, she nurtured his emotional and mental growth as well. Adam began to understand the value of empathy, compassion, and gratitude, lessons that would stay with him for a lifetime. Mr. Khalid, too, learned valuable lessons. He recognized that wealth and status were not the most important aspects of life. What truly mattered were the bonds we form, the lives we touch, and the courage we show in difficult times. He reflected on the choices he had made, the moments he had taken for granted, and the people around him who had acted selflessly. Amina's bravery had opened his eyes to the true meaning of humanity, teaching him that love and courage often exist in quiet, unnoticed acts that can change lives profoundly. One afternoon, Mr. Khalid decided to organize a small celebration in the mansion to mark Adam's recovery. It was a simple gathering, but it carried deep meaning. Family, close friends, and staff members were invited. There were decorations, small gifts, and a sense of joy that filled the house. Adam was at the center of the celebration, laughing, playing, and enjoying the attention. Amina watched him with a smile, feeling a sense of fulfillment and happiness that words could not describe. The boy she had fought to save was now healthy, thriving, and surrounded by love. During the celebration, Mr. Khalid made a heartfelt speech. He praised Adam's resilience, the dedication of the staff, and most importantly, the courage of Amina. He spoke about how her selfless actions had saved a life, and how her bravery had reminded him of the true values that matter in life. The words touched everyone present, and Amina felt a deep sense of pride and humility. She realized that her efforts had not gone unnoticed, and that the impact of her actions extended beyond the immediate situation. The celebration also marked a turning point for Amina and Mr. Khalid. Their relationship evolved into one of mutual respect, trust, and admiration. Mr. Khalid saw her not just as a caretaker but as a remarkable individual whose actions reflected the best qualities of humanity. Amina, in turn, gained confidence and recognition, understanding that courage and honesty could inspire change and create lasting bonds. Their connection became a symbol of trust, compassion, and understanding, setting an example for everyone around them. As the days turned into weeks, life in the mansion returned to a sense of calm normalcy, but with a deeper understanding and appreciation for each other. Adam thrived, his laughter echoing through the halls, and Amina continued to guide him with care and love. Mr. Khalid, now more mindful of the people around him, took time to nurture relationships and appreciate the value of selfless acts. The experience had transformed everyone, teaching lessons of bravery, empathy, and the power of human connection. The story of Amina and Adam became an inspiring tale within the household, a reminder that even in the most desperate situations, courage, honesty, and love could triumph over fear and uncertainty. It highlighted the importance of moral choices, the value of selflessness, and the profound impact that one individual's actions could have on the lives of others. The experience remained in everyone's memory as a powerful example of humanity at its best. In the end, Adam fully recovered, growing healthier and happier each day. Amina continued to care for him, building a relationship filled with love, trust, and mutual respect. Mr. Khalid, having witnessed the incredible bravery and selflessness of his employee, remained grateful and inspired. The mansion, once tense and worried, now resonated with warmth, joy, and a sense of unity. The events that had begun with fear and uncertainty ended in hope, appreciation, and lasting bonds that would never be forgotten. The story concluded with a lesson for everyone, that wealth and rules are important, but human courage, love, and moral integrity are priceless. Acts of selflessness can change lives, inspire others, and create a legacy that endures far beyond any material possession. Amina's bravery had saved a life, strengthened a family, and reminded everyone of the power of doing what is right, even when it is difficult or risky. The tale became a source of inspiration, showing that love, honesty, and courage always leave a lasting mark.